It's on you. It's on you.
I feel like my dad every time I go like this.
Sergio Jr. in the house. Oh,
Junior,
yours is
yeah,
Sergio
literally.
Jr. Are we live? What's
Might
going
be
on?
Junior.
We good? All right, everybody. It's been a while since we did a podcast, so vlog, whatever you want to call it. Welcome back.
Vlog.
I'm here today with. Introduce yourself, please.
Andres Alvarez with American Team Properties.
So, American Team Properties. If you do not know, it's a company that Ascend and Work Realty and Paradigm Collaboration, which are me and Ken's entities, works with very closely. We do a lot of construction projects, development. So anytime you see my stories or my posts that have to do with construction and new builds, it's usually working with their team. So we want to talk about it because the number one question that I get asked probably once a day, if not a couple times a week, is, hey, how do I get started in investing? How do you get started like developing? How are you building houses now, right, out of nowhere? Most of it was with ATP and Andres, and it's a family office. His father and mother, we all work really closely together. So, how about you give us a little bit of your background?
Yeah. So, like Nick said, part of American Team Properties, it's a family office. My mom and dad started off as just traditional sales in just what is it? Just like real estate
Retail,
agents,
regular, consumer real estate.
Yeah,
Just like
consumer real estate.
like Work Realty.
First time buyers a lot, and just kind of grew there. They started off in like the South Central area market. My dad really got along with the people there. It was more Latino based at the time, or still is, right? It's
Yeah.
still really
I mean,
heavy.
still a lot Latino based, yeah.
Yeah, all over South Central. And so that's where they really, started off. And then he got involved in doing investments himself, along with my mom and the team that they had back then. And then after the market crash, kind of just shifted. Got the idea of other people's money, right? Using other people's
OPM,
money.
that's one of our favorite
OPM, exactly.
words in this office, or sayings in here.
Yeah,
So.
and then just grew and got smart with it. Started picking out investors. Understood the construction game and the development game because back when he was doing his regular traditional sales, he got along with a lot of developers and kind of just grew his knowledge there. And then after the market crashed, kind of just shifted his business model and started kind of doing investments with other people's money,
Yeah.
doing the construction, the land use, the entitlements, the permitting, planning, and all that.
So that's where you guys are now, right? Now you
Correct.
guys are at basically focused on only new construction projects, right?
Yeah, that's
I mean,
our main
I know we're
game.
doing a couple flips together, but that's more of like, I guess.
With the markets, that's what the market is right now. So
Yeah.
there's a bunch of flips that hit our table every day. And so, the opportunity
You can't leave
where
money on
we
the
can
table.
take one down, yeah, we do.
Yeah, so we get flips. They'll bring them, to our side or to whoever, and we usually partner on those deals and take them down. Flips, that's kind of like the quick money. Developments is a lot more money, but it's a long-term play as well. So we don't mind doing either of them, short-term money or long-term money, in when it comes down to development.
Yeah.
So I mean, we have our marketing expert in, our guys that help us here set up this podcast. We got a couple questions for you just so we can gauge the audience too. You know, we obviously know how you got started in real estate, right? It's your family,
Yeah.
Is there any specific thing you like about it to made you stay? I mean, I know not everyone follows their family business, but you've kind of seemed to
Enjoy it.
enjoy it, and
Yeah.
you kind of just took it on,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it started off as just, hey, come help me out at some of these job sites, or come help me with this, and then eventually just started being more involved, coming into the office every day, and then just kind of learning. I started off with just acquisitions, which is just kind of looking at deals day to day. We have
Okay, so let's pause there. Because that's one of the things we're going to talk about here. Is a lot of people ask me, where do you get your deals from? How do you have an influx of deals, right? I think we have 2 in escrow to buy right now. We're writing up another offer on one this week that I actually wrote it up, waiting to get it accepted. So those deals were brought to either to us by people like you who like are searching for
In the
deals
same
or
game.
or other agents. But like, how do you get these construction projects?
Specifically construction or the
I mean,
jobs
all
we're
of them.
doing
How do
for
you guys get all
ourselves.
your? Because I've explained how I get my deals before.
Yeah.
Like, how do you guys get your deals?
So kind of before I get into that, like we do the acquisitions, we do construction, and we do the whole investment itself. Like I said earlier, just taking it from land to taking it through planning, permitting, and all that. So when I talk about the construction, we do a lot of construction for the public as well. But if we're specifically talking about development and the deals that are coming across our table, it's more of just building a relationship with people. Obviously, we have in-house agents as well, and so they're searching the MLS every day. But it's nothing you can't see on Zillow. It's something you can't see on
Yeah.
LoopNet, right? It's
Sometimes there
user-friendly
are deals
websites.
on the MLS and LoopNet.
Yeah, and that's how you start, and then you start to build a relationship. Even if it's not a deal, you talk to the representation of the or whoever's selling that property, and you just build that relationship and kind of just take it from
You
there
can
and
even
plant
try
the
and make
seed.
a deal happen. I mean, we had one that was listed at like 3 million, and it looks like we might be able to go into escrow at 2 million, just because we saw a property that's been sitting for a while, which in our minds means it's overpriced. By that point, a lot of other investors have probably just passed it up and forgot about it, and they never reached out to the agent. They never went and looked at the property. They never did their due diligence, and we did. And now I'm like, okay, well, this deal would work at two. Go to the agent. Hey, you think it'll work at two? You think they'll take it? Well, yeah. At this point, they think that they understand that it might be overpriced. So I can present that and maybe get them to accept it. And so we're just waiting for the acceptance. They said that they'll make it work. And now that becomes a deal for us that we found, right? You know which one I'm
Yeah,
talking about.
yeah.
So we found that on like LoopNet, right?
And
So
it's been there. It's been there.
it's been there for months, but no one ever just probably raised their hand and went and attacked the agent like we did. The agent wasn't answering for the first like 2 weeks. I had to
Yeah.
keep calling him, and finally he answered, and we were able to put something together. So just persistence from my side. But I mean, is there any special thing that you're doing besides just looking on the internet? I mean, I mean,
Just calling.
just phone calls like all day. I know this guy kills on the phone call. I hear him all the time when I walk in their office. He is calling agents, and you have a couple guys that do this in your office. I mean,
Yeah.
Carlos, shout out Carlos, Silos, where's he at?
Silos. Yeah.
He's hitting the phones. You have a couple others there in the office that are doing that.
Yeah.
And
And that's
I
where it
mean,
starts, because then like I said, you plant that seed, you build that relationship. And then when I see that relationship get taken to another level and these people are like, hey, I got this, hey, I got this, hey, I got this, is when it's different when you build a relationship with somebody and just talk to them and you guys connect, but it takes it into another level when you're serious, right? And for me, it's like submitting an offer, whether we get it or not, that's just showing that you're sometimes serious, right?
yeah,
And then after that, whether we get it or not, the conversation and the rapport that I built with that person, and then them seeing our offer come in, they're like, okay, unfortunately you didn't get this one, but I'll bring you the next one.
on the next one.
And I enforce that, like, hey, thank you for the opportunity. Please let me know on the next one. And it's just repeat after that.
Okay. Oh man, I was going to ask you. Okay, so you build that rapport with these agents, and they come back to you. And I mean, when I met you, this is about 3 years ago, about 3 years ago, I think now at this point. And you were new to that. You're young. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know I look young, so you guys probably don't realize how young he is, but
We're all young.
Andres is pretty young. So when I met him, I think you were just out of high school, right?
Yeah.
So, and he was just starting. So all the guys out there that are saying, hey, like, how do I get started? I mean, he was just out of high school, just starting. Mind you, he did have, teams behind him. But if you're new, you're looking for a team, you can come help us find properties, or you find someone like us that you find properties for. And then, like he was saying, you have to be serious writing up an offer. So in order to write up an offer, you got to kind of have a person
Backup behind that.
person behind you who either has the money to buy it or has purchased properties before, and that will help you, step your game up at the very beginning. But your parents made you start from the bottom. I mean, when I met you, they didn't just hand you the keys to the Porsche. I think you were just grinding and getting your own deals, right?
Yeah. What Porsche? There's no Porsche.
He's
Just kidding.
he got a badass. I know. There's 3 Porsches over there.
Yeah. No, yeah, for sure. No, yeah, and I always talk about that because my dad and mom obviously have been around forever. But the way, my dad, he's a little old school and he's more like a hustler. He's gonna hustle to get what he needs to get, right? Like, not in a bad way, just more like if he doesn't know the answer, he's gonna go and find the answer, right? For
Yeah,
me, I
that's
think
important.
I'm savvy enough to just Google it, right?
Your dad didn't have Google,
Yeah.
to learn. So
Yeah.
now that's what we do at our age is you can Google a lot of info. If you have questions, Google it. If you have questions, hit us up on the live.
Yeah.
And, call us, text us. There's some people that ask me a million questions. I don't care,
Yeah.
Joe, shout out to Joe over there in the corner. He asked me a ton of questions. But I love that. You need to ask questions because otherwise, then how the hell are you going to learn? And people think that they're bothering me asking questions, but like on the internet, people are like, sorry to bug you, but
Yeah.
no, just go ahead and ask. We're not,
No, and those are
Scary
the type of
people.
people you want to work with too, because the people that are like, it's just like, all right, fuck.
yeah, the people that
screw
think
off.
they know, or that that they think they know their way, and they
Yeah.
don't want to ask, then they're gonna try to figure out. I'd like them to figure it out on themselves, but at the end of the day, answer the question yourself, but then come and verify with us that it's right. Yeah.
Verify with 10 people.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I mean, I've been doing this for 10 years now. I still call you guys and ask you questions. You guys call me and ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
Even though your parents have been doing it for 30 years and you guys know a lot in house, but it's just bouncing ideas off each other, right? And that
Yeah.
just makes us all stronger. So if you're out there and you're just starting, don't be afraid to ask questions to other people like us. And now let's bring up the construction part. So you said acquisitions. That's the finding the property to do the construction on, finding the builds, finding the the flips, the rentals, whatever it is. Now there's construction. So there's 2 types of construction in my eyes, right? There's the construction you do for a flip, and then there's construction you do for new construction.
Yeah.
2 different things. You're more familiar with the new construction, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the only remodels that we really do are single family remodels. We don't really do much for the public. We do it for ourselves and the flips that we have. And even then, we're adding, ADUs or something like that.
Yeah, you're adding
still
ADUs,
some
so
type
it's
of
a new construction.
We don't really
Yeah.
offer it to the public. The only, we do a lot of value adds for the public because those are just bigger jobs, taking, 4
Yeah.
units, making it 8. And
Yeah.
so that's just
So how important
adding
how
value.
important is it to understand the cost of construction?
Very, especially
That's-
right now.
That's probably like one of the number one things, especially like you said, right now, supply chain is destroyed.
Crazy.
How much is wood now compared to like 2 years ago, a year ago?
Well,
Like-
I read a report last year. I don't know what it is now because it's still going up, and I know that because we just got some lumber bids. Last year, I saw a report that
remind me.
said lumber was up 80% from when COVID started.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen anything since, but the last 3 jobs, we have 3 jobs in framing right now, and we just ordered more lumber. And for example, the biggest one that was raised in price was about $80,000 in lumber from 3 months ago compared to now.
So the construction cost rose 80,000.
Lumber.
Just the framing job. Yeah.
For one
just the
job.
framing. So that doesn't include other things that are being increased, such as like concrete, right? I've heard stuff
Steel.
I've heard stuff from concrete guys saying, we can't even get concrete right now, or our concrete orders delayed like 2 weeks. So
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's another thing. Concrete, steel. There's a couple things going on right now in the world. Obviously, as you know, there's a war with out that Russia's is in Ukraine's in, and that's taking resources away that we get from Russia. In addition to that, China just went into a strict lockdown again for COVID. So some of the product that we get from China, I know some of that has to do with cement. I think we get cement from there too.
Mm-hmm.
So the Canadian truck drivers doing their boycott or whatever, and not driving their trucks. That's one of the main things driving up the lumber costs because we get our lumber from Canada.
Yeah.
So all those things, I mean, whether you support them or not, You support the war. You support the boycotting in Canada, the truck drivers, uh, or you do or not support like lockdowns. All that stuff, essentially, what you think, you know, think so or not, it affects you uh, monetarily. So you want to, you know, if you want to build something, or you know, you want your housing prices to stay good, then you know, uh, we're gonna have to do something soon because the pricing of the materials is getting so high that it's gonna start to deter uh, guys like us from building more houses, which we're in a housing crisis, right?
Yeah, and I know a couple people that I speak to that are big. Like there's this one group that's really big developers, and they're slowing down on their developments here in LA, and they're doing value adds in like Texas.
Value adds because it's less construction.
Less construction, which I guess
See,
Texas
and
is
I'm
the
even
move.
scared about that because why do value adds in Texas when all they can just do construction in Texas?
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, it must be like in downtown areas or something, right?
Yeah, I think it's all. Yeah, maybe because there's different business models too. Like what
Yeah.
works here won't work over there. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, everyone has to adapt, right? So like, and every time the market changes, you need to adapt as like a builder or investor. If the market shifts, you have to shift your business model, right? Some people you need to either move areas or I know like when I first met your dad, actually, all he was doing was buying 2 bedroom, 1 baths, and adding a bedroom and a bath to make it a 3-2.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all he was doing. Every time I talked to him, he was only doing that.
Yeah.
That was like 6 years ago. I met your dad before we actually started doing business together.
Yeah.
Like 3 years or 4 years prior to that. So then I talked to him a few years later, and all we're doing is RD 1.5, 4 unit developments, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And now I think, you know, the market shifted a little bit. So we paused on grabbing those and we went back to just doing regular flips. Because the housing market was so crazy that we can bust out flips like this real quick, and they're gonna sell like $200,000 over list price. So
Within 15, 30 days.
within 5 seconds.
Yeah.
So it's been shifting. So now we kind of have a mix of both. We have a mix of flips and we have a mix of
New
developments.
Yeah.
So where do you think that you guys are gonna keep going? I mean, you guys, it seems, you know, speaking to your dad, it's like, you know, bigger projects, but mixed use.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think
Golf course.
I think the golf course.
Golf course.
I told you about it?
Whatever. Yeah, he sent
Yeah,
to me.
Malibu.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, there could be a golf course that comes on the table, and that's bigger stuff. It always takes more money. We're gonna have to raise more money, but maybe shifting from you know, building single families to building just units or building retail. You know, so. What do you like to do? What do you think you would like to focus on?
I think, ultimately everything like those bigger projects that are hitting our desks, it goes back to kind of what I first said. These are just seeds that have grown that my dad planted a while
Years ago,
with
yeah.
people that he's been doing business with for a little while now, right? And, these things are just, we're getting the opportunity to be involved, and it's great.
Mm-hmm.
But as a company, I think we're focused on what we're doing now, which is the new development stuff that's, mix of residential, multifamily, and apartment. And there's going to be a lot of play. I know there's a lot of bills that are being passed and stuff like that
Mm-hmm.
that look concerning to some people, but to me, I think there's a lot of opportunity there.
Mm-hmm.
And there's already bills that were passed a couple years ago, or actually I think a year or two ago, that you can do a lot of things with,
Like the SB9.
SB9, yeah.
You can, you know, if you focus on doing ADUs for like consumers, I mean, you could build basically an ADU for anybody right now.
Or for yourself, you could build
Yeah.
multiple ADUs on one lot.
Yeah, some of the developments, someone sent me a development, it's a 4 unit, but then they have an ADU in one of the garages. And then they also said that you can do a junior ADU if you wanted.
Yeah.
So that adds, instead of it being a 4 unit, it's technically 6
Six.
unit of income. And that kind of changes the strategy a little bit. But that's an SB9 law, right? So,
Yeah, I think so. I don't know SB9 and SB8 and 10 are supposed to be were passed in
last year.
January 1st, 2020. But
Well, they took,
before
yeah,
that,
they took into play this year, though.
yeah, but before that, I think a year or two ago, there was an ADU law that says for every 2 units you have, you can add an additional 2 1,200 square foot ADUs and a junior ADU, which has been in effect, and we've actually built out a couple.
Okay, so
For some
let's
people.
pause real quick. So if you don't know what an ADU, it's an accessory dwelling unit, which a lot of people have been getting more, familiar with. But it basically is like another little unit on your property that you can add, and so that's what we're talking about here is being able to add that to basically any property at this point.
Yeah, it started off with just one, right?
Yeah.
Well, it started off with converting your garage, right?
Yeah, so you can convert your garage into a unit. Now
Yeah.
there's a thing called a junior ADU where you can add actually another unit if you want.
Yep.
And it's legal and it's a state law. So if your city denies you, you can actually, quote unquote, sue your city, which the state's actually starting to do themselves. So I don't know if you read the article about Pasadena here. The SB9 law passed and Pasadena set out their guidelines, right? So every SB9 passed state level. Now each
Cities
city
have
has
to
to
adopt it.
draft up their interpretation of the law and what they're going to allow. Well, the city of Pasadena doesn't want their lots to be split and have a bunch of multifamilies. So there was, a small detail in SB9 saying that if a property was, designated as a landmark, that property would not be able to be divided or anything changed about it. So the city of Pasadena, in their verbiage, they put that, I don't know, did you read it or no?
No.
So the city of Pasadena put in their verbiage that no property that's historical, which is half of Pasadena, can be subdivided. Which the state then came back saying, no, that's not what we said. If it's a landmark, meaning a landmark is a building where something historic happens or a historic figure lived or something that house may be designated as a landmark. There's a house here in Pasadena that Frank Lloyd Wright designed, right? Famous architect. That's considered a landmark house. So that one would not be able to be subdivided with the laws of the state under SB9. But the city of Pasadena, they try to say, hey, the whole, anything historic, which they were like, well, we're basically not going to let this happen.
Yeah.
So the state said, no, you are going to let this happen, and we're going to sue you if not.
Wow.
So that's what the article came out saying. So if the state sets an example out of Pasadena, that's going to happen like statewide. So you will be able to put ADUs on your property. You should be able to subdivide them. Each city will have their guidelines, whether you like it or not. I can see both sides of it. If you live in $1 million neighborhood, you might not want, you live in you have a $2 million house, you may not want a $2 million house next to you with 4 units and them renting it out to whoever,
Airbnb.
Airbnb-ing it or
Party.
whatever. So I understand that. But you also got to understand we're in a housing crisis. You're putting a house on the market and you have 50 offers on it. That means there's 50 people that could need a place to live, right?
Yeah.
So
even renters. There's a lot of competition for renters.
We put a rental on. I think we're partnered with ATP on some of our construction products that we've turned into rentals, and even those we put those on the market. I think your sister is the one who markets the rentals for us, and she put it on, and like a half hour later she came by the office. She's like, "Oh, I already have 3 applicants."
Yeah.
Like in a half hour.
Yeah.
I'm like, and we rate, and we our tenants left, and we kicked the rent up a few $100, and it's still like gone, Which is, yes, that sounds good for us, but
It just
shows like there's a housing shortage. So, we're trying to knock down single families and build units. I think that the city should be flexible,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, we're knocking down single families and putting 5 homes on one lot.
So let's revert back to kind of how you network with other builders, maybe. I mean, how do you approach them?
It's hard with builders.
It's hard with builders,
everybody's,
right?
like it's the same game and stuff like that. So
yeah, so no one wants to give the recipe out, really.
there's no real recipe to me, right? It's not much. It's not information you can't get.
You can get it, but a lot of people have worked hard to be where they're at. Maybe don't just want to give it away.
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, I think so.
So how do you has there been,
Well, the most famous thing in any business or real estate or whatever you do, right? It's giving someone value in order to gain their kind of trust, right?
Well, exactly. I had 2 guys yesterday we talked to, and they want to start working in investments, right? So
Yeah.
I told them, well, you can come work at the office, but I'm not going to pay you, and then also you have to add some sort of value to me to make it worth my time, like training you.
Yeah.
So have you approached any builders and offered them any sort of value, or they already at a position where they don't really need you?
Yeah, I mean, the only time I really talk to other builders is whether it's construction jobs, whether it's they're offloading any properties that, they might be looking to sell. Talk to them about what they do, kind of give them the spiel on what we do.
Yeah.
Because we offer a lot. A lot of builders are just focused on, they're just the capital, right? And then they have everybody doing everything else for them, right? That's a lot of them. We do a
By
majority
capital,
of
you
it.
mean they bring most of the money, and then there's guys that are doing the footwork.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we do majority of that too. So I kind of just explain that and see where I can, add value, whether that's, working together or not, kind of just giving input. I talk to a lot of agents that get my opinion on why I passed up on deals, and I sit there and talk to them about it, and kind of just really, that's really it. Those are the main conversations I have with builders. But if you're looking to connect with the builder, you have to add some type of value.
Yeah, so I mean, for someone who's starting, my opinion, for someone that's just starting, if you want to get involved with a builder or a flipper or anybody that does investments, is to bring a deal. I think if you have a deal, that would be your best way in. What do you think? I mean,
Yeah.
is that the best way to get your foot in the door like a builder or
There's
investor?
a number of things, right? Because then it just depends on the person you go to. They might have different needs, different wants at that time, and whether that's you bring them a deal and you try and kind of work your way in, that could work. That could work for us, right? But for somebody else, this guy could be like, I already saw this deal. What do you want?
Well, I mean, what about it's a deal that, my grandma's friend has owned for 50
Yeah.
years. It's never hit the market yet. I mean,
Yeah,
they don't even
definitely.
know that they want to sell it. They're just talking about it, and then, hey, my grandma's friend owns 2 acres in the middle of Pasadena. You know,
Yeah.
and they bring that to a builder, and
have them walk you through it, and then
yeah, because
kinda
I know
build
sometimes
that.
I get deals and I send them to you,
Yeah.
and you look at some zoning, you do your due diligence kind of, and you see what we can build there. I have a lot up in like Pacoima area right now that someone brought to me. It's off market. They own the store next door, and they also own that lot. And they said, hey, what can we do with this? I don't know if you remember that one.
Mm,
We went over. I think it's we can either build like 19 or 20 something units there.
oh yeah.
Remember?
It was right next to
Yeah.
like a.
So that's an
a
off market
store.
one, and I just talked to the guy yesterday. I think we can get that one,
Okay.
or partner with the guy and build it.
Yeah.
We bring the money and the construction, and we build it together. Everyone makes money. That guy's not a real estate investor, but he will make money, right?
Yeah, and if you're in sales and you have a property, like you said, like my grandma's friend's uncle or whatever it is, friend's
Yeah.
friend, you could take that to any land use company and kind of get an idea
Yeah.
of what you can do, and they can kind of walk you through that, and then maybe you bring that information to a builder and saying, hey, this is what I
Yeah.
found out, this is what I think we can do, let me know what works for you.
And-
I want your input, and it just shows your initiative, and
Yeah,
then,
exactly.
who knows?
And even like if you're a real estate agent, you already have a head start on just an average Joe who's not in real estate, because you might get a listing from someone who it could be developed or it could be flipped. And that's again, a lot of agents bring us deals because they know that we buy, they know that we flip, they know that we build, so they'll usually just bring that to us right away. So that agent adds their value to us by bringing us a deal.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's see. Is there any questions on the live so far? You guys got anything?
It's not construction related, but do you mind?
Yeah.
I was gonna ask, how's the economy affecting the market, or is it?
So,
It's all you.
I mean, I'm gonna hopefully talk to our one of our buddies after this. Shoot, did that mess it up? I thought it was the zipper. I pulled the mic off almost. But you got to literally look at the economy. I watch it all the time. We're investors. I honestly want to say I'm not sure about the single. We're just in an area where we don't know, and again, there's some outline factors. The economy, is obviously doing good. Everyone has money right now. There's plenty of jobs for people to get. Depending on what news you listen to and whatnot, I mean, it could change your view on things. I try to listen to all of them because I don't think that either or any of them are solely right. And then I also look at what we see in the market, right? Like some people say, like, oh, housing sales are crashing, and I'm like, how? Like we put houses on the market and we have a million freaking offers, and so how is this newspaper writer telling me that home sales are crashing? It doesn't make sense, and it's not accurate. And if you read and then you go and read their article, then you'll read in there that it says sales are down from last year. Well, of course, there was more inventory last year. So if there's not enough houses to sell, if there was 100 houses to sell last year in Pasadena and now there's 20, of course the sales are going to be way down from last year, right?
Yeah.
So inventory, so depending on what news you hear, you don't really know yet. And I think the biggest problem we have with the economy is the supply chain. And just talking with a couple people, I'm not an expert in the economy, but I think supply chain, it's affecting us as builders, and it's not only affecting us. I was talking to a guy that's a pool builder there, and he said that they're having problems with keeping with supply chain too, and some of them they're able to start jobs, but they're not able to finish them right now. So that's drying their well up. Essentially, they're not getting the money for finishing a job because they don't have the materials to finish the job. So if that's like the case for a lot of things, then we might be in a little trouble, and we'll have to start producing more things here in the U.S. and we'll see what happens. I mean, I don't think it's gonna die in the housing market,
No,
but I don't think the housing
so.
market's completely gonna crash. But
Especially in LA.
there's still a shortage of houses, and people still have money to buy them. So
Yeah.
once affordability of houses gets too high, then I think we'll see the market stall. But people can still afford houses, even with interest rates rising. I think it's all going to come down to. I just want to watch closely the next couple months what's going on with global forces and the supply chain. That's the things I'm watching the most is China on the lockdown, Russia in the war, and our supply chain basically.
Yeah. No,
I don't know if you follow the economy that much.
No, you're more
Maybe
involved
Ken
in
can
it.
jump in on this. Ken, you got anything on the economy right now?
No.
It's just kind of in a weird pattern, right? We don't know. I don't think that everyone really knows. It's kind of different time. So there's a yield curve which is inverted right now. That's usually a signal of a recession. But that happened like a couple of years ago, I remember, and a recession didn't happen. So
And you got big events coming to LA. I mean, if we're talking about LA specific, because it's what
LA specific, the U.S. specific. I mean,
there's always big events
World
happening.
Cup,
There's
Olympics,
the World Cup, yeah,
in the next coming years. The city wants to be the most futuristic city by the time we have the Olympics here, right? So
I'm pretty sure that another Super Bowl is going to come back for the Chargers.
another Super Bowl.
Stuff like that.
Dodgers have the All-Star game this year.
Yeah.
So specifically for Southern California, we're kind of a different animal than the rest of the U.S. Honestly, if you don't know this, I think that Southern California is like the sixth biggest economy or something like that on its own in the whole world. So our state in itself here, it's different than the rest of the nation. So if the rest of the nation enters into a small recession or anything like that, it may not impact us in our market as much. So again, just if we had a crystal ball, I think I was telling Andres this last night, if we had a crystal ball, we'd all be rich. But we don't, so you gotta just kind of look at the indicators. There's a lot of different indicators, and make your own decision. If you just gotta again adapt. So I think right now our strategy would probably just try to stay liquid right now. So stay in short-term stuff that we can get out of or we can refinance out of, and keep that money liquid. So if the market does go down, we have buying power. So
Yeah.
we don't need to. Yeah, we don't buy houses to live in, which is different from other people. We buy them as investments. So it's a little different. But yeah, any other questions?
How long does a project take to complete?
Which types?
So flip should take, between, I'd say right now, back order of some materials and stuff, 3 to 6 months on a flip, if you're doing it right. And new construction. What we
I
started.
always add. So like with the flips, I'm putting my timelines at like 6 to 8. Just
6
in
to 8
case,
months. Yeah.
You know. And
Yeah, I
then,
think we couldn't find shower heads, and
Yeah.
we couldn't even find we couldn't find faucets, dude,
Yeah.
for a while on one of our flips. So it's
Windows, all that. It's getting
windows.
bad.
Windows. We just had a French doors take us like 6 weeks to get.
Yeah.
You know, and the originally they said we will get to you in 2.5 weeks. They're missing this part for the doors, and it didn't come for 6 weeks. So that right there, just that one window we couldn't put in, that French door we couldn't put in, so we couldn't call for inspection, and then we couldn't call for inspection for the plumbing and the electrical, even though they're done, and we couldn't call for the roof, so that just delayed all those things because we couldn't finish those until that window was in. So yeah, I mean that project is taking. We were planning on having that one on the market by now, and it's not. It's not done.
Yeah.
So that's a flip. It could be 6 to 8 months, and then a construction project from knocking the house down to renting it out. What do you think?
So from knocking it down to getting it all approved and stuff like that. Pre-COVID, it was taking six months average
Pre-COVID,
to get
yeah.
permits. Now it's about a year. And like I said, all this is public record. You can, if you see a brand new building,
but a year to build it,
no, a year to get it approved.
just
and
to get the
then
plans approved.
Another year.
Yeah, we were getting plans approved in 4 months before COVID.
Yeah, 4 to 6 months.
We'd submit plans to be approved in 4 months, and we would start building, and we'd have it done in 8 months. So it was taking 12 months from plan submission to renting it out, owner occupancy,
Yeah.
certificate of occupancy.
Certificate of occupancy, it's stabilized, and
Yeah.
putting it on the market.
Yeah, exactly. So now I think we've been in planning for like 14 months on some of them.
Yeah.
And now we just started building some, so we don't know where construction's at right now, new construction post-COVID, but I think we're could probably be at 14 months on that.
Yeah, it just depends on what we're building to. Building bigger, obviously, it's going to take longer. But what we kind of stick by, it's duplexes, 4 units, 6 units, 8 units type of idea.
Yeah.
And so usually we probably run a 10 to 12 month timeline just to build it out, just depending. It's not even just the construction. There's a lot that goes behind
So when
it.
we're looking at the project from the beginning, if it has plans, I think me and Ken's strategy is to say it's going to take 14 months.
Yeah.
Is that what you agree?
That's
You
what I
agree with
put,
that? I think
yeah.
we're on the same page with that.
Yeah, I put 12 to 15, just depending on the project type.
Yeah, we say 14 to actually get their certificate of occupancy, which means that we can rent it out or someone can occupy the property. 14 months before we start renting it out is kind of what we're at. So we
Yeah.
have to put that holding costs into our pro forma when we're running the project.
Yeah.
And so I think with a flip 6 to 8 months. So and let's say even a 4 to 6 or 4 to 8 unit, 14 months.
Yeah. Just
What's
about.
Mariposa at? 14?
14, but the thing about that is it's a different
It's a small
build.
lot.
It's a small lot. So
Yeah,
there's a lot
so-
of things that happen before you get to the certificate of occupancy. You could be done, it could be finished, staged, and all that, right? You can
Yeah.
even start pre-selling them,
Yeah.
but you can't sell them until you get that certificate of occupancy.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of times, it has nothing to do with the construction. Majority of it does, but sometimes it doesn't. It's a lot of paperwork, documents,
In the city,
bonds,
updating, yeah.
city work, all that stuff. It's not
So,
even just the city.
I
like,
think we sold 79th before the certificate of occupancy came, and we were just waiting to
were
close
held
the
up.
escrow
Yeah.
until we got a certificate of occupancy. So, like you said, you can start marketing it, but you still won't be able to sell it really until the certificate of occupancy is done. So, so yeah, I mean, to get certificate of occupancy, I'm going to say 14 months on new construction. Flips, you don't need a certificate of occupancy, so that's going to be six months, I'd say. 8 months, I mean, yeah, we've had a couple 8 months too, so.
Yeah.
And that's supply chain problems, so.
Yeah.
Any other thing? Other questions? Someone asked me, I have a couple questions that people asked me that I forgot to write down. I know that one, shout out my boy D, AV, he told me he wanted to address a problem that he's seen developing on contaminated land. Have you ever had that?
Yeah.
Okay.
We pass.
Pass on that, right?
Yeah.
Pass on that. So, or
Just depends on the
or
scope.
or how if you have contaminated land, that means that there was an oil spill, a gas spill. There's an oil well in the city of LA. You would think, right, we're in the middle of the city, but there's a lot of oil wells in the city.
There's a river. I've seen a map. It's literally like a river going
the-
under Dodger Stadium,
Yeah,
going up Echo Park.
it goes
into
all the way
K-Town.
to the coast.
It's a river, literally a river.
In case you don't know, people always freak out with this, but California's like floating on oil basically, and it's just cheaper to get it from the Mideast and Russia and stuff. But we're floating on oil, so we'll never have a shortage of oil here. But there's oil wells all over the city, and there's some properties that have old oil wells. I think you have to pour like 50 or 60 feet of concrete or something down the oil well.
Something like that. Yeah, you have to cap it.
You have to cap the oil well. I know in a specific scenario, a gas station, right, leaked oil or gas into the ground for like 30 years. So I think that you have to dig like 60 feet down, 50 feet down, take all the contaminated soil out, bring new soil in, recompact it, and then build on top of it. So
Yeah.
that the cost to deal with contaminated land is just insane.
Yeah.
And unless you're getting the land probably for like free, it might probably not be worth it, right?
Yeah, it just depends, because then you really don't know the scope of work until you get all your
So you get into it.
environmental phase reports like done, which is not even the first one. There's like, I think there's two, right?
There's a
the
phase
first
one and a phase two, yeah.
yeah. And that'll tell you the real scope of work, whether you have to dig 60 feet down or you just have to remove these things. It's not really contaminated or whatever it is, right? Or only a certain part is contaminated. So until you get to that point, which you have to cough up some money, right?
So that's just it's
You
kind
won't
of
really know.
It is kind of a variable when you're buying a property, and I don't like to have variables when I buy properties, right? You may see on those flipping shows that they buy a house and oh no, this happened and this happened, but those are like $5,000 problems, right? And $5,000 should not kill your deal on a
In
flip.
Florida, not in LA.
Maybe, yeah, maybe in Florida, $5,000 kills your deal, but in LA, it's gonna have to be like a $20,000 problem for it to kill your deal, which there's really no $20,000 problems on a property that you should just randomly know. It's something you should expect. So there's no variables that would kill your deal. But when it comes down to like contaminated properties or environmental issues, that's something that could kill your deal because the scope of work could be
Significant.
200,000, 500,000, just to like remedy, or bait the problem. And at that point, $500,000 will kill your deal.
Yeah, I
on,
can't
uh,
imagine
reconstruction.
excavating 60 feet.
Well, imagine removing 60 feet worth of dirt, and then you have to bring non-contaminated dirt. So
Yeah.
first of all, you have to excavate contaminated dirt. You have to pay for the removal of that dirt and to put it somewhere else.
And you have to pay. They're going to tell you to take it to a specific
There's going to be a
location.
specific place to
Dump it.
dump that dirt, contaminated soil, and then in addition to that, then you have to bring in other dirt, which people don't know this, but how expensive is dirt?
I mean, yeah, and it's not even about the price. It's about the time too. Like
Yeah.
this isn't gonna happen in a month. Yeah.
No, you're gonna be excavating for a year, and that's holding costs and everything. So, contaminated properties, I would say, avoid that like COVID,
Like the plague.
like the plague.
Yeah.
COVID now.
COVID. Yeah.
Anything else you want to say to anyone trying to get started in development, real estate investing?
Yeah, I guess everything is we're in a century where you can just Google anything from your phone, right? And a lot of times, if you kind of get the idea, if you have an idea and you don't know the answer, obviously you're gonna go and speak to people, who might know that answer, and that's the first thing you should do. But also, don't shy away from Googling it, and then that'll give you a lot of info on that, and then you can bring the right
So-
questions to the table.
Yeah. So you're saying basically
It's not as hard
help
as
yourself gain knowledge.
Yes.
Help yourself gain knowledge before just automatically reaching out to someone like us.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. But also, it's just for yourself, right? It's not even
Yeah.
for like, oh, don't ask me, because I don't mind helping anybody. I really don't.
Up to a certain extent, right?
Even then, I still help because it's just like,
You're a nice guy, but when you
Yeah.
get too busy, you're gonna have to do a different,
Yeah.
I always like help people because I learn from somebody.
yeah, it's always
So-
about the person asking me too, because like, it's not as hard
Well,
as it seems.
If someone tries to figure it out first and then comes to me, I respect that more than
Exactly.
them just coming to me for the answer.
Exactly.
So don't come for me for the answer. Come to me with 3 solutions, and then we'll tell you which one's right.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that just helps you. It makes you a better person, because then for the next one, you have an idea,
Yeah,
and then you're
exactly.
still gonna kind of do your research. and it's not as hard as it really is made as it's set to.
Well,
you know?
we have one guy that says, why flip why flip a $500,000 house? Why don't you just flip a $1 million house? It's double the profit, same amount of work, right?
Yeah.
So don't be intimidated by bigger projects. Don't be intimidated by any project. You know, I'm not saying don't go do the $500,000 project, but don't be afraid to go and step up, right? So hopefully one day we'll be building buildings like this around us.
Building golf
will.
courses for Nick
This guy's
to
young.
play golf
I'm
on.
young. Yeah, we got a golf course still in Malibu that we're gonna take a look at. Who knows? Maybe we'll build that. And
PGA.
we'll own a PGA course.
Yeah.
All right. So thanks for joining us. I guess this is it. We ran out of stuff to say. No one's asking any more questions. You got a question, Joe?
Any questions? in
Joe's
the
got a
office?
question back there. Show the office. Show them working diligently. Look at that. Joe, give us a question.
I don't know, I'm blank.
You're blank? You don't know?
Yeah.
You have any questions about development that you want to answer? That's fine. All right, we'll talk to Joe off camera. Sorry, everyone. You're not going to get the benefit of that. So, cut. Brandon, hit the lights.
Broadcast station.
We good? Did we get any viewers in there?